Welcome to the guidebook, everybody. I'm Rachel Meltzer. It rhymes with seltzer, and I'm your host of this podcast. Today, we are talking to one of my favorite people. She will light up any room. She's the host of No Rest for the Vivid podcast, which I have also guested on. So go listen to my episode over there if you haven't already. It's Claire Hill. She's joining us from the UK to share all about why you might feel like you don't have enough time in the day. And spoiler alert, it is definitely not what you think. She challenges some of my limiting beliefs on this episode, and I know she'll challenge yours too. So if you feel like you never have enough time in the day, and I know that feeling, then this episode is definitely for you. Stay tuned. This is the guidebook. We're sharing tips for freelancers, raw conversations with risk takers, and the emotions behind it all. I'm your host, Rachel Meltzer. It rhymes with seltzer, and you're in the right place if you want to be a fly on the wall of conversations with brave, experienced freelancers, recaps of new freelancers' first years of business, and walk-in talks where I share everything I've learned in the past 6 years of freelancing. I'm here to ungatekeep freelancing so you can unlock your bravest self. I hope this show inspires you to go out and take the risk. Yay, welcome to the show, Claire.
I'm so happy to be here, Rachel. When you were on my podcast, my face hurt from smiling. So
It was so fun.
Yeah, it's going to be basically, we're just going to have a little party podcast and teach some stuff.
Well, for people who don't listen to your podcast or don't know you yet, can you introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Claire Hill. I am a business coach, but I'm an expert in productivity and self-belief, which means I am supporting you to get all of the blocks out of the way in making your dreams come true, because more often than not, it's down to procrastination and self-doubt or imposter syndrome, sort of same thing. And yeah, I'm the founder of the Vivid Business Club, host of the No Rest for the Vivid podcast. And I think that's it in a nutshell. I help people business owners with a warrior spirit. That's the bit that I was missing out.
This is perfect. I love the name of your podcast, No Rest for the Vivid, and how neon pink everything is. It just like brightens any day.
Exactly. I've really been embracing like my vivid brand and keep asking, I always think, how am I living a vivid life? Like, how am I being my most vivid self? Is this my experiencing this in the most vivid way? But I really like, when you're doing something and then you're like, right, actually, I'm talking about it a lot more, really owning that part of my brand. And I just feel like the way that I help people transform in their business and their lives is that they're in like grayscale, and then they sort of, nothing against beige, by the way, you can have rainbow, but you know what I mean? Like they're in grayscale and then all of a sudden they're in Technicolor, like in Wizard of Oz.
Yes.
Before the tornado, after the tornado, Oz, I'm in Oz.
Yes.
And I feel like that when you ask yourself that question all of the time, it allows you to be so authentic to who you are. And then when you do that, you can show up so much better for your business and for everybody that,
Yeah. It's one of those things that sort of lines up well with one of the stories we talked about a lot on the podcast lately, which is like everybody who's a new freelancer, especially women, are afraid of selling themselves, or they have an ick towards it. And when you can look at it more like, am I showing up as my most vivid self? That feels so much better than like, am I confidently selling myself? It's such a leap to go from having the ick towards sales and confidently selling yourself. I always say you're not really selling yourself. You're selling your solution, your expertise, whatever, your service. But that almost feels easier. It's like a bridge between not wanting to sell anything at all and feeling confident.
Yeah, and I think we just got to move the focus. Like, it's not about us; it's about who we're here to help. Like, as soon as you shift that, and also, I hosted a group coaching session in my membership literally an hour ago, and I have a networking group that people come to now. And one of my members of the membership is close enough to come to the networking, and so she said to me, "You're teaching how you're showing up. It's like how do you do it? Like, you're doing so well." And I was really embarrassed. I was like, no, you've got to accept the praise, Claire. And I said, it is literally because I own it now. I know that I'm here to teach with my energy. And I think my energy is my superpower. And sometimes I used to think, "Is that really enough?" It's like, "No, yeah, actually that is." And it's just literally stepping into that. And
Mm.
I am selling 24/7. No one realizes I'm selling 24/7 unless I'm going, "Guess what? I've got this great offer. Do you want it? La, la, la." But if I'm not doing that, then, you are constantly reassuring, and selling goes beyond just, "This is what I have. You must want it. It's gonna change your life." It's about trust and nurture and, like, "Do you wanna be my mate on the internet? Let's go."
Yeah, yeah.
That's
I always say the
okay.
more value you give away for free, the more you'll sell because people don't realize that you're selling when you're giving them value, and you're not really selling, you're just helping them and showing them how you can help them, and once they realize how you can help them, they're like, "Yeah, I want more of that," you know? That's the easy way, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah.
Before we get too far, I would love to share with our listeners, like, how did you get started in entrepreneurship and starting your own business? What led you down this path?
I'm sure that a lot of listeners are like this, where they sort of had a bit of a business when they was a kid and they sort of made money. My thing was that I used to tidy my friends' bedrooms for them, and then I would say, "Look, I'll do it for you. You select some things that I can have of your stuff, and then that's how you pay me." Like, that was my first thing, and I then had a business when I was 14. I made bags, like crossover bag, like PE bags, all of the stuff for my friends, like scrunchies, and I spent 6 weeks of my summer holidays, 'cause that's all we have in the UK. 6 weeks of my summer holidays, and I made £6, which is about $9, and I must have worked, God, so much. It was ridiculous. And then I had another one where I sold stuff on eBay with my friend, and then I had this business called Violet and May, where again I was hand sewing accessories, so wedding fascinators, jewelry. Worked really lucky to know somebody that knew a shoe designer, so I did some work for them. And Beyonce had a rose that I made on her foot that blew my mind, and Oprah
No
Winfrey.
way.
Yeah, best week of my life. The same week that I met my husband, which is literally this time, actually 13 years ago. It was
That's
insane.
crazy.
And then, yeah, and then I grew that business, and then I went into, and all of that time I was working with adults with learning disabilities, went into management of homes for them, then started working in the community with homeless families. And because of my background, like my childhood was a bit pants, and I grew up with quite a lot of financial issues. Like, basically, we didn't have finances, we didn't have any money. So I was like, I'm going to give back. I want to help these people. And then I got made redundant from that role and went into teaching. And again, quickly progressed, loving it, helping all these kids. So, in all of that, that was like 20 years of me supporting people to be the best versions of themselves. And then I had a baby called Jackson, who is now 6, and in that fog, after the first 3 months got out of the way, I was like, "I just wanna be creative again," and Vivid Wire was born, which is a wire art business. But I was, because of everything I'd learned from my other businesses, and all of those were before Instagram even existed. So this one was different because it was online. It was like e-commerce, and the others hadn't
Mm.
been, apart from the eBay one. I was a bit like, okay, how can I use what I've learned, with selling? And very much, I used to go up and down to stores trying to say, sale and return with all my stuff. Like, you have to really believe in your products when you're doing that, because the
Yep.
amount of no's you get is
And you're
ridiculous.
in person, like, you
Yeah,
cannot
they can't
fake
hide their
anything.
face.
Yeah.
Like, it's
They
really,
can't
it's
just ghost you.
no, they can't. No, because 'cause I'm just with my stuff. "Hiya." But that's the thing as well. I used to do, like, wedding fairs, and with the other oh god, it was insane. But then moving on to Instagram, how can I replicate the magic of that I was really good at onto an online presence? Did that through Vivid Wire. Really was like, "I'm an artist. I'm gonna charge what I want." So from the beginning, I knew how to charge appropriately. And so I felt a lot of confidence in pricing strategy, which I've finessed now. Like, I think a good pricing strategy builds confidence in you, regardless of whether,
Absolutely.
it's just the best thing.
Yes.
And then I eventually, because it was handmade business, turned parts of it and revenue streams into passive and semi-passive income. And not many people were doing it, that they were basically moaning because all they were doing was making all day long, 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. I was like, "No, I'm not doing that. I've just burnt myself out being a teacher. I'm not Are you having a laugh? No, thanks." So all of the things that I was learning, as well as I was studying a master's degree when I was a teacher, I created this concept of warrior energy. And I actually did some action research with a school where I said, if you do certain activities in the morning, how does that help your mental well-being, your confidence to change from a worrier into a warrior?
Mm.
Built this framework. It landed so well. And so then I started applying it to myself, applying all of these strategies, and people were like, can you help with my business? And then the business coaching started. So I think when I say what I teach, I am the advert for it. And I have never, ever taught anything that I have not tried and tested on myself. And the fact that I've had quite a few businesses, um, I think it allows I've got such a thick skin. I'm just
Mhm.
like, something bad goes, something wrong happens. I'm like, oh, brilliant. I'm well excited. What amazing thing is around the corner because of this? So, in a nutshell, Rachel, there you go.
It's perfect. No, I love to hear the squiggly journeys because it's everybody thinks from the outside that like, oh, you're so confident and you're so good at what you do. You must have been doing this all along and that's how you got here. And it's like, actually, we've all had these crazy, like, I also used to be a teacher. I used to work in politics and it's former teachers are going to take over the world, I think.
Oh God, let's get her name in straight away. Oh, Polly Clover.
I know. Polly's the same. Yeah. And she's also like doing incredibly well. But what they don't see is behind the scenes, like we were all three of us working on our money mindsets. And all
Yeah.
three of us had like struggles with money growing up. And those things, the things that make the foundation of your business, the majority of it is your mindset. Like, yes, you need to be able to like have a business bank account and do your taxes and, execute your services and sell your services. But at the end of the day, the only way you can do those things and do them well is if you are working on your imposter syndrome, working on your mindset with money, and just like actually growing as a human being as well.
Yeah, yeah. I had a conversation with someone yesterday about this because they, so many people will spend so much money on strategy. Like,
Mhm.
do it like this and this will happen. But and I know this is such a commonplace thing, but I just don't know if enough people embody it. Is that only that the success comes from 20% is strategy, 80% is mindset. Like, and when I meet clients, I'm just been doing some previous a period of market research. Everything. What is limiting you? What is your biggest challenge? Me, my head. I get in my own way. And imagine if you are, as we go back to the beginning of what we were saying, is if you wake up every day and you are authentically your most vivid self, you look after your mindset like it is another person, that future self, future version of you is your top priority, then imagine how much more you'll execute in a day. Imagine how much more you'll show up if you want to. Imagine how much more courage you'll have to be brave. It's limitless then. It's the only
Absolutely.
thing. Like, you can be successful with a bad strategy if you've got the good mindset. The
Mhm,
strategy is
mhm.
just only part of it. It actually is part of it is like it's the path of least resistance, isn't it? Strategy. Get
Mhm,
another
mhm.
course, do another course, do another like learn that thing, but are you going to implement it? You can't
Yeah,
without the right mindset.
experience is very much the best teacher. And it's important as well. Like, you can get someone else's strategy and they might be doing really well. Like I took a course on passive income and I thought that it was going to like unlock passive income for me. I did everything the course said and I still struggled. And I realized after the fact that like I just needed to do it my way. Like I didn't need to like have a fancy camera with a teleprompter. I didn't need to have like a video editor doing the videos for my course. Like no one cares that much about the quality of the video. They care about the value that they're getting from the course. In addition, courses are not passive income if you are having to sell them by launching. That's not
That is
everything's semi-passive.
true. That is so true. You've hit the nail on the head. I paid a lot of money to be in a mastermind last year. And I'm not going to talk down about it and I'm not going to mention what it is because I did learn a lot, but it definitely wasn't a mastermind because
Mm,
there was 100 people in it. That to me is not a mastermind.
that's
Yeah.
crazy.
And it was a very specific way and it was focused on my membership to the Vivid Business Club. And I really wanted to maximize it. But what they taught, and I tried it 3 times, it didn't work. It didn't work
Mm,
for me.
mm,
And I think when you have that moment where you go, that was a lot of money for something that I'm not gonna do anymore. Like, I've got to think about the fact that, and if you rely on the strategy to fix the problem, then you are gonna end up in that situation. But what I did learn from it was not what not to do, which actually was genius. But
Just
without
as
the
helpful.
mindset to back that up and go, it's because a lot if you've got the wrong mindset in that situation, you go, "It's me. It's
Yeah,
me.
you're
I'm
the
the problem."
problem.
Yeah,
Yes.
but it's not.
Yeah,
So
and it's
leave that
not
mindset. Yeah.
I think it's also important to see that, like, it's not necessarily a failure, or, like, maybe it is a failure, but you can learn from it. But, like, I felt like such a failure that my course for 2 years that I worked it took me 2 years to build, and I spent 2 years trying to sell it, did not sell the way that this course promised me. And at the end of the day, what I realized is, like, I actually hate Instagram, and I think probably people can tell because I don't fucking wanna be here. And that was, like, repelling people, and it was just too much it was too much for me. And when I switched to LinkedIn, like, everything changed for me. I talk about that all the time. And that's not to say that, like, you shouldn't be using Instagram, or because obviously it works for you, Claire, but,
Yeah.
like, for some people or some mediums or some niches, maybe it's not the best place for you. Maybe for your personality, it's not the best place for you. And it's okay to, like, try something and fail. And as long as you learn from that, right? Like, the learning from it could just be, I don't want to do that. The learning from it could also be like, oh, here's how I could do this better. And it's not that, like, that course that I took didn't teach me anything or it was a waste of money. I think it was a little overpriced, but at the end of the day, I learned, like you said, what I don't want to do and what I do want to do, and that you have to make everything yours. I have a bunch of free Notion templates, for example, for people, like a freelancer's dashboard and an ideal clients tracker. And people are always like, well, how do I do this in the tracker? Like, how do I keep track of individual people in the tracker? And I'm like, I don't know. How do you want to do it? And they're like, well, I think I should create a new card for every single person. And I'm like, okay, then do that if that's what you want to do. Like, make it work for you. It's just a template. A template is a starting point that you can adapt to your business and how you work. It is not like the end all be all. The best part of Notion templates is that it's not like a rigid structured software that you have to use the way it was built. You can do whatever you want. And I think we expect, because it works so well for someone else's success, that we have to do it exactly that way in order for it to work for us. And it's not, it's like, that's like the opposite of what I would hope you would do with my templates?
This reminds me of when when people get really annoyed if some clothes don't fit them right. They walk into a shop and they're like, "Oh, those jeans don't fit me right," and they blame their body. It's like, no, the jeans don't suit. They're not made for you. It's the same kind of thing that you're not going to walk in and find the perfect pair. You got to try a few on. I mean, jeans especially, like, you've got to try or just throw them out and wear joggers, like, don't worry about it, but, it's that idea of what wouldn't it be fun if I go and try that and it does work?
Mhm.
Wouldn't it be fun if it doesn't? Because, my god, the transformation in that learning is gonna be phenomenal, and it's gonna make me. It's gonna literally make me and allow me to own my space in a totally different way. And again, I was talking today in my membership about launching memberships because I've got some people in the membership who want to, and I've supported them to launch their own. And I was saying, like, you set your price point, listen to your intuition as you set that price. When you are confident in your lane, then start looking elsewhere. Because the worst thing to do, if your mindset isn't like concrete in, this is what my membership is for, and this is who I serve, especially, like anything with your course or whatever, anything that
Mhm.
you're selling, if you're not really standing by what you sell, then you go and look at somebody else's and go, oh, mine's shit because I'm not doing that. Then it ends up being your message is diluted immediately because you're not backing yourself. So I was saying, like, go and have a look in about a year. Get in your groove first, see who's gonna be attracted to what you wanna do, and then move on. But yeah,
It
just
takes time.
get curious. Just get
Yeah.
curious with it all.
Yeah, having a curiosity mindset rather than a should mindset, or why can't I? Those are the things that sort of stop us, but, like, how can I feels much better and more exciting, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, one of the things that we really connected on LinkedIn recently was not having enough time in the day. I asked freelancers, like, what are you struggling with on LinkedIn? And the most popular comments were the ones that were like, I just don't have enough time in the day to get everything done. And it feels like I'm, like, constantly just like scarce for time. And to me, there are so many reasons you might feel this way. One of those things could be that you don't have systems that are working for you. So you're sort of like spending a lot of your day sort of fighting your systems, or like having to do things that like things are taking longer than they maybe could if you streamlined. But a bunch of other things could be going on too. Like you could be procrastinating, which for me is part of the process. I've built procrastination into my schedule. I personally find that it helps me, but I also have ADHD, so that could be why. And I've also noticed some people who feel like they don't have enough time in the day are allowing their tasks to sort of expand because they're giving them too much time, or they're not being strategic with their time and their booking. Or there's also the people who will sort of randomly take days off. Like I used to work like 6 days in a row, and then I would take 2 days off. And they were never like designated days. It's not like I take Sunday, Monday off. It would be like, this time it's a Wednesday, this time it's a Friday. You know what I mean? I would just take it off when I felt burnt out. And I would always feel like I don't have enough time in the day and I'm working too much. I'm working 6 days a week. Why is this happening to me? I can make my own schedule. I should. It really came down to like, I was just allowing things to expand in the space that I was giving them. And then when I did take the day off, I felt so guilty for taking the day off that I was basically just like making myself more burnt out instead of resting and making myself feel better. So then it just like is a cycle that keeps repeating itself because it's just like a piranha like eating away at your psyche, right? So there's like so many reasons you might not have enough time in the day. But I feel like you, as like a productivity coach and someone who also understands neurodivergence to an extent, like what are your thoughts on the not having enough time in the day dilemma?
Well, there is so much to unpick here, so I might go off on a little bit of a monologue. The first thing I want to say is when it comes to rest, when you don't believe you should be resting or you're feeling guilty, that is attached to worthiness. Now, there is so much mindset in productivity. Like, it is not a strategy, it is a strategy problem, it's a mindset issue and about productivity. I have worked years with children with ADHD, and myself, I have symptoms, but it's trauma affected. But I'm going to drop a bombshell here, Rachel, and I don't know how it's going to land, but procrastination's got nothing to do with ADHD, which a lot of people, I know, and it's crazy when people say, "Oh, I'm procrastinating because of ADHD." It's like, no, that's about your focus. But procrastination is avoidance. But
I
it
think
is
it's
to do with
also like
ADHD. And it
it's like a living in dysregulation thing. Like typically when I'm most productive at work is when it's urgent, and it's either urgent or it's a creativity flow that I'm enjoying following. Like when I do websites, I really get into like a design flow and I love that. Or I need the urgency because I'm not interested enough in the work that I'm doing. But then it just sort of like you're living on a roller coaster of dysregulation. And I have yet to find the balance of regulation to not use the tools of urgency and like procrastination to get my shit together.
the thing is,
And
if
I
you,
think part of it
yeah,
too is like hormones. I think it's
yeah,
nobody talks enough about how people talk about like cycle syncing and like getting your hormone flow in line with your work and working to your hormone schedule. But a lot of people like me who are dysregulated because of something like polycystic ovarian syndrome or endometriosis or something like that, it's impossible to cycle sync because your cycle is not regular. And so a lot of times, like my hormones are also fucking with everything. I am working to get them under control, but it just takes so long and so much effort. Like I constantly think about what I eat and what this lack of sleep is or whatever, you know? So I know it's not necessarily like I procrastinate because I have ADHD. It's like I procrastinate because I'm dysregulated and I have yet to find the balance of regulation. So I'm kind of using it as a tool, but it's like maybe not the sharpest tool of the shed, if you will.
and the thing is that like one in the talk that I did yesterday, I said two myths and a lie. And to be honest, my cold has made me forget what the other facts, not like two truths and a lie. And the lie was that deadlines are the best way to get over procrastination. And they're not, because you're not looking at the root of why you're procrastinating.
Mhm.
You are, and when we talk about hormones, and I bloody love, I love the fact that you mentioned it. if you are able to regulate, you have a regular cycle and be really productive when you're ovulating and then go, there's a great book called Period Power, and it's by a UK author. So I don't know if you've got it over the US, but it is phenomenal. It's by somebody called, her name's Maisie Hill. And she talks about the seasons of your cycle. And my VA knows when my period's coming because I've got it all over my calendar and I plan accordingly. But like you say, that's not possible for everybody. But the hormones that we can have something to do with, that really take a really big part with productivity and mindset. Number one, the king of all hormones is insulin. So
Mm-hmm.
what is food? If you're starting the day, and I will go down a rabbit hole with this, so I'm going to try and curb myself. But if you start the day with a heavy carby breakfast that's got a lot of sugar in it, that is going to impact your insulin levels. Therefore, you are going to feel more tired, feel more lethargic. That's going to beat yourself up, etc., etc. So always high protein if you can, and try and avoid those really low GI carbs. So that's
Yeah.
that.
Also, if
Also,
you want the biggest thing that changed my life with insulin, I read The Glucose Revolution.
the
Sure.
glucose goddess.
By the Glucose Goddess. Yeah, that was life changing to me. My friend recommended it to me last year, and I was like, oh my God, I think I have blood sugar problems. And I went to my doctor, and she was like, oh, yeah, you totally do. You have insulin resistance. You have polycystic ovarian syndrome. And I was like, why didn't anyone tell me this when I was diagnosed with PCOS? And they were
You've
like, oh,
got
well,
you go hyper then.
yeah. So I'm on a blood sugar control medication now. And my PMDD symptoms went from like, I am a dragon 1 week a month and I want to, like, my boyfriend probably wants to kill me at this point because of how psychotic I am towards him, to now I rarely notice that I'm having PMDD symptoms unless I'm like having road rage. Like, that's the only time it comes out now because I'm controlling my blood sugar better. I'm also controlling it with my diet, but because of my insulin resistance, it's hard. It's really, really hard. But yeah, highly recommend if you feel like you're tired after every single meal you eat, which I did, and you're on this like exhaustion roller coaster, you might want to look at either A, what you're eating, and also what your blood sugar is doing.
Thinking that I've got something called hypoglycemia, so I'm the opposite.
Yeah.
My
Yep.
insulin is too reactive.
Mm.
And I don't talk about it too much, but it's a pain in the ass. Like, it
Mhm.
is so annoying. Like, a couple of times I've had such severe hypos that I've nearly passed out, and I'm with my son. It just happened, and I'm like, oh my God. And it's just so debilitating.
Yeah.
I have to literally carry back jelly babies and a carton of juice. But I'm not diabetic because it is just that my insulin goes, oh, we're having a party. Let's get the glucose in the cells. Woo! Oh no, we've done it too much. Oh, bugger. So I literally have so much protein in my diet to try and regulate that. Like, the odd biscuit just can't do it. It's just going to make me feel poorly. That's first up, look at insulin in your diet. That's going to be really key. But also these beautiful hormones and chemicals in our system. They're not actually hormones, they're chemicals. Adrenaline. Is adrenaline? Adrenaline might be actually.
I feel like it is.
Well, a hormone, the definition of a hormone is a chemical that sends a message and makes something happen. So I'm just going to go with it. I'm trying to remember
I'm
my
not a
science
doctor.
background there. Over there somewhere. But yeah, so adrenaline and dopamine. And as somebody with ADHD, we gotta find that dopamine everywhere. And that is, like, people need dopamine as much as anything else. So everything I teach about productivity is all about, let's dial down your adrenaline addiction. Last minute Lindas, leaving everything to the last minute. Let's
Last
dial up
minute,
that
Lynn.
dopamine. Let's turn you into those prepared paulers, because it doesn't do anything for your system and it makes your hormones so imbalanced. And then you need magnesium in your life. If magnesium glycinate, if you're struggling with anxiety, sleep, or anything to do with doing last minute everything, magnesium glycinate, and specifically magnesium glycinate, needs to be a supplement that you take. Disclaimer, I am not a doctor, but go and read about it. And also if you're having painful periods, because there is a mismatch with the messaging that magnesium can help, where the pain is too much. So, and I'm talking from experience where my diet, foggy, all of that. I was a last minute Linda. Always, I do my best work when I leave it to the last minute. Oh my God, it's so good. Like, I do it on purpose because I'm literally a queen when those deadlines are coming. It's like, yeah, but I was literally a shadow. I come to the end, I'm like, like a zombie because
And
I've
then you
got
have to
no
recover
energy.
for your whole day.
Exactly, or longer, like just wipe me all out. So the way that I talk about all of my productivity stuff, which I'll come to in a minute, is all about searching for the dopamine, and a deadline just does nothing. So if you're procrastinating about something, the real reason you're procrastinating, and if that's the issue you've got too much on. So I'm going to just quickly go back through all of those examples that you said because I want to make sure I cover all of the things, because another thing you were saying was about having too much. So if you've got too much on your plate, your worthiness is attached to how busy you are and how you are in service to others. Therefore, you take on too much. You're a people pleaser and have no boundaries. Again, attached to worthiness, doubt, and imposter syndrome and fear as well. So it's
I
all
think
there. I
some of that
teach.
too is like there's a little bit I see so frequently. I'm like, well, how many clients do you have? I don't know. How much money are you bringing in every month? I don't know. Like they're just in the pursuit of getting clients and getting the yes for the validation that they're doing the right thing. And people do want to work with them and they can't say no to anything because they feel like they need the money so desperately. And it's like, okay, but did you actually charge your rate? Like, if you go through and list all of your clients, how much time you're spending on them, like legitimately how much time you're spending on them, not how much time you think you're spending on them, how much you're actually earning from them, and you really look at it, like actually audit your business, you might see some things a little more clearly. And you're right, it does so frequently tie back to that self worth piece or the money mindset. And this is why, like, on my freelancer dashboard, the template and the dashboard that I use personally, there's a little section. So every time you get a new client, you write them in there and you keep their notes in there and you have all that information laid out. So every day you're seeing it. You can't ignore and avoid it. But it is like, even if you have a system, it's not going to fix any of your problems unless you take a look at your rates and you take a look at your money mindset and you take a look at your self worth as well.
Yeah, and what happens as well with some of my clients is they say, "I haven't got time." No, I've got no time. I've got so much on my plate. And in the next sentence, I don't have enough clients. I
Mhm.
haven't got enough. I'm like, okay, well, you've just told me you haven't got no time. Where are these clients? What are they going to do? Where are they going to fit in if you've got no time? Well, the universe is listening and is going, yeah, you want more clients. You haven't got no space. We got to trust that void a little bit more when that happens. But
Mhm.
also, when that happens, how many clients do you want? What does it look like when you are fully booked? How many hours a day do you want to work? Remember that you need CEO time because you want that those clients in the pipeline, bringing them in. And so that comes down to having boundaries and around what work you're going to do. There's a great book called The E-Myth by Michael Gerber.
Yeah.
I'm going to check that I think I'm pretty sure it's Gerber. And he talks about the different building your business like a franchise. And he talks about McDonald's. And I went hell for leather for this when I learned about it. So my whole business is split like I've got 30 members of staff. They've all got job titles. At the moment, there's only 3 of us in my organisation and multiple hats. But in that sense, it means that when I am ready to hire more, I go, "Oh, there's your job. There's your job description." But it also means it's very easy for me to go, "Okay, today I am CEO. Tomorrow I'm marketing director." And
Mhm.
I block out those different roles because the worst thing you can do with your energy is take one hat off and then put another one on and then put another one on and put another one on. And what happens if you don't have a proper strategy to what work you're working on is you think, "Oh, I'll just do that quickly. Oh no, I'll just do that while I'm there." Now, a symptom of ADHD is being distracted. Now, this is one I do have, and I will open up my phone to look for research or something, but then something triggers my eye, like, da, 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 oh, I'll go over there and I'll just do that quickly. And I'll go down a rabbit hole of doing different things. Like you, I time that in because sometimes I'm so much better than I used to be, but sometimes I will only lose 5 minutes. Sometimes I've lost half an hour or more. And it's just one of those things that I don't notice straight away. It's like the meerkat thing. And that's where it comes from, trauma related. I just want to look at all the time for something.
Yeah.
So with that, I have this system. It's called the Kickstart Formula, and anybody can have this. It's completely free. It's on my website. Just go to clarehill.uk/free stuff.
Yeah, we'll put
This,
the link in the
yeah,
description as well. Yeah.
the Kickstart formula is so good Everybody that uses it loves it. But I didn't realize how powerful it was because I started using it when I was 20, when I was at university, writing my dissertation, and I use it every day. I used to use it like I use it at the weekends. I literally use it every single day because without it, I am a floating plastic bag around in the wind with nothing to anchor on. I'm just floating around, literally like that fireworks song by our good friend Katy Perry. No idea what I'm doing in my life. I need to anchor it. So I write the first step is to brain dump everything that you're holding on to in your brain. Second is you highlight what you must do. Always focus on what is important, not urgent. Usually urgent is attached to somebody else's urgent. And this is where we forget to work on our businesses first,
Yep.
especially if we have lots of clients,
Yep.
because we want to serve our clients. And what if they don't like us and we don't answer that message straight away? Oh my God, imagine leaving them for 20 minutes. Again, attached to self-worth. So you write it all down, you highlight what you must do, and then you do the simple thing of putting a number next to each one. Now, number one, when you put that number one down to the first task, it is essential that you choose something easy or that you're going to apply a 2-minute timer to. If you've got nothing on there, you're going to have to choose the worst job first because you get double dopamine when you do that. One, we build momentum by doing an easy thing to get going, but choosing the worst thing first to do means that you get dopamine when you tick it off and then you reward yourself with an easier job next. The worst thing about procrastination is it gets worse through the day. If you've got something that you don't want to do because it's boring as fuck, it's really boring, right? There's so many things in business. You're like, this is why? Why have I got to do this? If you keep putting it off, oh, I'll do that in a minute. I'll do that in a minute. The energy of the heaviness of it just drags you down. I did a piece of content yesterday on Instagram of this amazing guy. He's Norwegian and he dances with a teacup. I don't know if you've seen him on social media. Oh my God,
No.
joy in a reel. I'm just going to send you this reel. It's just so good. So I saw this piece of content and I did my own version of basically he's dancing and he's like, when this is me, when you put something off for ages and then you smash it out within 20 minutes, because the perspective of that thing that you think is really, really difficult, it's not going to actually take you that long. Just get it done fast. And then the weight's lifted off your shoulders. You have more energy to carry on, which means you start working more quickly, giving yourself more time. That is the thing. It is not the amount of tasks a lot of the time, it's how much we think the tasks are taking us
Mhm.
and not prioritizing our own business. Because when you get to the end of the day, you're like, shit, I still didn't post any content. Oh, I still didn't do that. I still didn't do that. Woe is me. You feel inadequate. And what you've done by doing that is broken that self trust. You said at the beginning of the day you were going to do that, then you didn't. And when we impact self trust, that impacts your self belief. Because if you can't trust yourself to do the little things on your to do list or the stuff that's important, how the hell are you going to be able to believe you can do the big stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
your doubt is sitting there going, you can't even get up on time when you put an alarm on. You snooze. You snooze the alarm. So you think that you're going to be this amazing freelancer traveling the world, being a digital nomad, and you've just snoozed the alarm again. Get a grip, love. Like that is
It's
what
also one of those
reality,
things
isn't it?
you learn so quickly when you're responsible for something else. Like I took care of my friend's kid for 3 days and like took her to school every morning, and she has like her whole routine like listed out with timestamps for me to follow to take care of her. She's like 6, and I had no problem getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning to take care of her and take her to school. And I had a great day and I got so much done while she was at school. And I was just like, wow, it's like, because I have purpose. Like, I love this kid so much. I have purpose. I have no problems getting up at 6 a.m. But if it's for myself, forget it. Like, I don't want to get up at 6 a.m. I'll snooze that alarm until 8 a.m. It's so bad.
And the thing is that it it's so. I used to be like this. There's a story that I tell about the fact that I used to have 9 alarms in the morning,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
everyone
I
could
hate those
snooze.
people.
Yeah,
I just stopped setting alarms. I just don't have one. I just wake
yeah.
up when I wake up,
Good. Well,
which
the
is
thing is,
sometimes worse.
I do have a human being that I have to get up for, but when I didn't, it used to be tough. But before he was born, and I did start this before he was born, thank God. I read this article again about cortisol. It's all these chemicals and hormones in our business. So it gets set off when you snooze that alarm because your body goes, we've got to be on alert. We've got to wake up soon, but we don't know when, do we? Is it 9 minutes? So no, I can't remember. Is it 10? No, I'm not sure. Just in case, we'll just lay it, and that's what your brain's doing. It is not good sleep, but it can get into that groggy, shitty sleep, which impacts. So before you've even dealt with anything in your day, your body's already full of the stress hormone. So there's one thing that I was really struggling. I used to be complete insomniac, like really bad insomnia, for like 10 years. Like that was my identity. I am an insomniac. Nice to meet you. My name's Claire. And I had to do something because then when I was teaching, like you cannot be an insomniac when you're teaching. No. So I just did this thing where I just stopped snoozing the alarm and just worked really well on my sleep hygiene. But
Mm.
not snoozing, sometimes I fall off the bandwagon, and God do I know it, because I feel like a grey sludge about me all day, like my energy isn't just there. Also makes me a bit more weepy and a little bit like my doubt gets a bit more of an edge in, and so I can hear it a bit more. That's one thing, but it links so closely to self-belief, and people think I'm daft when I say this. I was like, the worst time for you to don't snooze the alarm one day and it's really hard the first day. And you literally get up and just say, no negotiation, I'm getting up. I've put the alarm on. I'm keeping this promise to myself, and then you slowly your self-trust happens. And again, that's another dopamine hit because you are saying, "Oh, look, I've just done something I said I would do.
Mm.
Brilliant." And then you start the day building that little momentum. You will find you'll become more productive as a result of just doing that. Uh,
And your body gets used to it too, you know?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it is the first one. Like if I fall off the bandwagon, which does happen, it is always harder the next day when I go, "No, don't snooze, just get up." But I never ever regret it. I never ever regret
No, I don't
not
either.
snoozing.
That's just so it's like an addiction. It's a horrible feeling. It's just the same as how sometimes I just want to like smoke weed, play Stardew Valley, and watch Gilmore Girls all at the same time, and then just like binge eat a bunch of sugar, even though I know it's horrible for me, because it's like self-sabotage mixed with like scratching an itch. It's like scratching poison ivy. Like you know it's the worst thing you could possibly do, but it feels so good in the moment. And then the
Yeah.
next day, you're going to regret it after going to bed at 1 o'clock in the morning and singeing your eyeballs out and getting a bunch of cortisol dumped in your system while you're playing a video game. Like, sure, Stardew Valley is like a cozy, chill video game, but like I am running around. I'm drinking like 10 cups of coffee, my character in that game every day. Like, it's not chill for me. I'm an overachiever. I need to like really go hard. But it's one of those things that like, you don't realize how shitty you feel when like you feel kind of shitty because you're not sleeping enough, but you don't realize how bad it is until you get like 2 weeks of really good sleep, and then you have that again, that shitty sleep again, and you're
Oh,
like,
yeah.
my God. Because I used to be an insomniac as well.
Yeah.
And I would like blame it on my anxiety and then I wouldn't do anything about it. And when I stopped bringing my phone into my bedroom, I make sure it's like actually dark and cool. I do yoga before bed now. And it's like 5 minute yoga. It's not like I'm like doing half
Yeah,
an
yeah,
hour
yeah.
yoga video with Adrian on YouTube. Like it's like 5 minutes of just like,
I do love yoga with Megan.
I do too, but not every day.
But
It's too much
not
for me.
45 minutes. We go round through our YouTube channel and go, "Where's the 18-minute video again? I can't see 45. What are you talking about?" Yeah.
Exactly. And it's like even wearing pajamas, like I have the same pajamas every night and my roommate thought I was psycho for doing that when I first started doing it. And I was like, no, my chiropractor recommended it and it's actually amazing. And the magnesium before bed, like and I think my whole nighttime routine maybe takes 30 minutes and it's feels good the whole time to me now. But the beginning is like the hardest part to break out of your old habits. And then once you get into it and you actually feel better, you're going to be so addicted to feeling better that you're like, okay. And you're going to fall off the wagon. I do it all the time. Not all the time, but frequently, at least once a month, usually around my period.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
you just start again and it's okay. And you're like not a failure. It doesn't mean that you like are going to be an insomniac again forever. It just means like, okay, now we try again. But the difference is so like you can feel it in your body and your intuition if you really like get in tune with yourself, and that's like the high I ride is like how good I'm feeling, you know?
Yeah, and I think it's so much there because when you were talking, like when we let go of these old habits, we're grieving the person we were that was forming them. If you really want the success that you know that all of our clients bang on about, like if you're listening to this right now and you're like, oh, I really want that success, you cannot have excuses and success. I know that is a savage statement, but it is true. There is a workaround for everything, and I'm telling you now, I've worked with people that were paralyzed from the chin down and wanted to live on their own and we made it happen. Like nothing is impossible. And so when I do get frustrated when people say, oh, this is this, I've got this, I've got this. I'm like, okay, fine. But and that's where I used to be. Can't do that. My dad died when I was really young. Such a terrible childhood. Watch me get my violin out. It was really sad. But without that, I wouldn't be proud to be the woman I am today. And this, I was made for this. That made me. So I want that success. Any excuse that comes up for me, and I probably am a bit annoying with this, but that's the way it is. If there's an excuse that comes up for me, I will work around it. I will
Mm.
find something. I never have an excuse. If say like this week I've got a cold, the testing point of whether I'm ill enough not to work is can I be bothered to put makeup on? And the
Mhm.
only reason, like again, I was talking to someone about this yesterday. My CEO version of Claire is hair down, makeup on. As soon as I finish work, hair is up on top of my head, lenses are out, glasses are on. And I'm very similar to you. I have two sets of pajamas I wear when they get washed. At the weekend, I wear this. This is hilarious that I do this, but every weekend, I wear the exact same clothes. I wear a pair of leggings and a jumper, and I wear them every single weekend. And I never ever deviate them from that. And I've got my hair on top of my head, makeup, because I have to transform, I have to keep this part of me which is very authentically me, out of the other way so I can rest appropriately. Um, but it's about I've forgotten my point now. Where was I? Cold. Oh yeah, about the excuses. So when I'm ill, like if I can't put my makeup on, I'm like, okay, rest time. But if I can, there's no way business brings me so much joy. I'm not letting a cold stop me from recording a podcast with you when it's like this. Like, I'm obviously fine. I've had a coffee, like, but there have been a lot of times I've been ill and I'm like, nah, it's not happening today. I cannot. Bye bye. Like, I've got to reschedule it and not feel guilty. And there was something I heard recently that said, when you're feeling guilty about resting, we say, have you worked hard enough to rest? But let's flip that and say, have you rested enough
Mm.
to produce your best work? And there's so
Yeah.
many people that don't. It's like, oh, the hustle, the hustle, the hustle, the hustle. The way I teach productivity is that you can double your productivity and work less.
Mhm.
We're not into toxic productivity. I'm not going to tell you all that busy work that you think you should do. Yeah, keep going, babe. No, that's attached to your self worth. People say, oh, there's this meme that goes around like everyone says they got their shit together. No, they haven't. They're just lying. No, I've got my shit together, and I have truly have got my shit together. And at any point, I think, oh, I haven't got my shit together today. I tweak and sort it out because I define what my shit together means. I don't do that much. Like I haven't got that high expectations of myself of I have to I don't know, I don't even know what the shit is that other people do because I'm just not interested in it. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
one of those mums where my kid goes to all of the clubs and has to have all of the like he don't give a shit. He's loved. And
Mhm.
to me, that's good. But I define what that shit together means. There's one thing that I used to really feel inadequate about was birthday cards. Like I've got this cousin and I love her and she's so good at it. But she remembers every birthday, every anniversary, she sends out a card. I used to
Not
think,
me.
oh my God, I can't even remember to text someone.
Right.
My people in my life only believe I love them on the one day of the year that they must receive a card from me. They obviously don't really know me.
Mhm.
Therefore, I don't give a shit.
Mhm,
Like,
mhm.
the right people are gonna go, "Oh, Claire loves me," and I might ring you or send you a song down a voice note, but I tell you what, when you need something, I'm there, or, "Let me make you some food, come round for a cup of tea."
Mhm.
Birthday card, but when you measure your adequacy and your worth in the world measured by what everyone else wants to do.
Someone else's yardstick.
Yeah, stay in
Yeah.
your own lane.
I think it's important to acknowledge that you didn't say, I don't have excuses anymore. I don't use excuses anymore. You still have them. The difference is you're examining them and doing something about it. I'm also the same way. I used to have so many excuses. I would try to blame everything on everyone else, especially my lack of success at the time. And I learned over time how to identify what's an excuse and a limiting belief that I can do something about, and what is like, something that is actually standing in my way. And even if there is something standing in your way, there's probably what they call the third door, like another way to go around it. And it's not to say that I deal with my excuses instantaneously. Like sometimes it takes a little while to realize you're making an excuse, or you have to sit down and journal, or it takes a few days to find a
Hmm.
solution, or
Yeah.
whatever. You have to sit with it. It's not to say that we're perfect, we don't have excuses. It's just that we are actively reflecting on our thoughts and identifying the things that are holding us back and doing something about it. Takes time. Sometimes it takes multiple tries to get around an excuse or a roadblock, but it doesn't, like, nobody's perfect. And you can start literally just by identifying what is holding you back and trying to be more curious about it, rather than beating yourself up and being like, well, that's an excuse and I can't do that. And then just like trying to block it out, trying to just like shove it down is not helpful. You do
No,
have to
don't
like
ever shove it down. Oh,
examine
shove
it,
it down is the worst. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, 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 and I think you're right. Like the one thing that I used to do that I just don't do anymore was have a really big pity party, and I
Mhm.
would invite everybody and be like, "Do you want to hear my suffering? Because it feels so good to me." And it was a complete, one of those pains that was exquisitely beautiful because I was addicted to it. I was addicted to the pain, addicted to the misery, and I felt so comfortable and wonderful in being miserable about my really horrible childhood as well as everything else. Right now, I am at a point now in my healing that I do say stuff like that because I say it like that, like it was really shit. And I had, grew up in poverty, but I'm not saying it as like I used to say it as yeah, like it was like a badge of honor going, look what I've been through, like trauma competition or something. And now I just realized one day, I'm like, I don't want to go to my pity party anymore. It's a draining of my energy. Like I can feel myself dragged down in. So when I talk about having these excuses, you're right. Like I'm not saying that people don't have reasons why they're not moving forward. But if you're not willing to be curious about a way around it, and this is savage, but it's true, you probably don't want it enough. So, and save everybody's, this is really savage, really, but save everybody's time and your own by finding something that does light you up. Because when something lights you up, with me, if I've got an excuse, if excuse comes up like you were saying, or a limiting belief, I find it, I grab it. It's like that mosquito flying around the room. I'm going to find it and I'm going to flip it because there's nothing that's going to stop me from getting to my dreams. I am so passionate about my mission and what I'm here to do. I want it that much. And just have a really honest conversation with yourself. Do you want it enough? And a lot of the time, it is around people around you. So it might be, yeah, but so and so thinks so and so, or such and such. Like usually it's like, but my partner, I just don't want him to think or her to think this, that, and the other. It's like, yeah, okay. But is that a story that you're telling yourself? Have you actually
Mm.
had that conversation? And remember that difficult conversations create an easier life. When we're actually really honest with the people around us, you find out a different story exists and it's actually the story you made in your head. But the person that a lot of people aren't honest with is themselves. And like you were saying, sitting down and asking yourself journaling questions. Like I've got a set of prompts, and if anybody is listening and wants them, just find me on LinkedIn. I'm all over LinkedIn now, Rachel. Message me
Hell
on
yeah.
LinkedIn and I'll send it to them. But they're shadow prompts. Have you ever done shadow prompts before?
Yes. Yeah.
I
So
just feel
helpful.
like it's like Harry Potter and his wand, or Hermione, really, like
Mhm.
coming in with their light and bringing up the flash of darkness, and you just discover things that they're like little gremlins you were being carrying around, and you had no idea. And all
There's
of a
so
sudden,
many.
pop, and oh my God, I feel amazing. And that's down to you wanting it enough to sit down and journal and find it.
I think sometimes also it's okay to not want it enough. Like I was
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
trying so hard. I did van life for a year. And at the end of the year in the winter, it was just like it's brutal living in a van in the winter, especially if you're not in the South. And I came back to Maine and ended up like renting an Airbnb for a little while. And at the end of my Airbnb rental, I was like, shit, I have to get back. And I had to like admit to myself. And I think I stopped wanting to do van life when I was in like Utah. Like it was
Yeah.
months before that. It was like October. And now
Yeah.
I'm in February and thinking, I don't really want to go do that again. But sometimes it's hard to admit to yourself. And some of that as well is, again, that external pressure. Like, what will people think of me if I quit? I have this big Instagram following because of this and my sponsorships and this and this. And I'm just like, you know what? It's not worth living a life you hate for other people to be satisfied with who they think you are when they don't even know you. Yeah.
It's all based on a lie then. Like, we can't, that's where that inauthenticity gets really loud, like really, really big and loud, and gets in the way of everything. Because if you're not being true to yourself, if you're not being your most vivid self, like, we're going round to the beginning now. That was nice.
Right back. That was perfect.
Right. If you're not living as your most vivid self, then everything is disjointed. And a lot of people, this is played for well, actually basically everyone people pleasers. So when but they, I should really. It's like, just because you can help people doesn't mean you have to. If it's not going to light you up and make you feel amazing, it's okay to say no to preserve your energy. You've got to be self-focused. It's got nothing to do with selfish. Because when you're self-focused, you are such an amazing version of yourself. You are like the most potent, beautiful, like juice, concentrated squash. I don't know if you have squash in the US, but that kind of juice that's so, like, you drink it and your mouth rains instantly because it's so strong. How much further does that go? Because it's so vivid and strong as yourself. You get to love more and be more yourself and spread all of that out because you filled your own cup up first. And there you go. I think
that's perfect. Perfect place to end.
We should end there because that was right, beautiful. Duh.
Delightful full circle. Bow on the present. Well, thank you so much for doing this with me, even though you have a cold. Do you want to tell everybody where they can find you online before we jump off? And if there's anything you're promoting right now, feel free to share that too.
Yeah, so I am writing a book about the Kickstart Formula. I urge everyone to go and download that. It honestly is a game changer for productivity. But I also have a productivity masterclass. If you go to clairehill.uk/free stuff, all of my tools there, it's just packed. It's packed. There's a self-belief masterclass. There's just loads of stuff there. Obviously, I've got my podcast as well, No Rest for the Vivid, and your episode is banging. So that's there as well. But you can find me if you search I am Claire Hill. I am Claire Hill everywhere. So LinkedIn, Instagram, where else? That's where I'm hanging out now. So yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Claire.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for tuning in today. This podcast was created by me, Rachel Meltzer. Our music is by John Worthy. You can find more information about the resources discussed in this podcast in the show notes or on our blog at meltzerseltzer.com/the-guidebook-podcast. Also, while you're here, did you know that I offer coaching and community for freelancers? I offer free community events and free resources, as well as paid options like Pop Club, our community for freelancers, and one-on-one coaching, whether you're starting your business or you just need to revamp some things and get out of that feast-famine cycle or take your business to the next level and double your income. I'm your gal. Come talk to me. You can find all of these resources at meltzerseltzer.com. Our free resources are at meltzerseltzer.com/free, and our paid resources are at meltzerseltzer.com/coaching, but you can find everything there from the homepage if you want to. If you have a second, please rate or subscribe, like or comment on this show. On Apple Podcasts, you can rate and leave a review. On Spotify, you can just rate the show. On YouTube, you can comment and like this episode, and you can subscribe to my channel if you want to watch these on YouTube in the future. Thank you so much again for tuning in to our little show. Every interaction that you make with our show helps new listeners find us, so I would love it if you would just take a second to interact with us. It means the world to me. All right, I hope to see you in the next episode of The Guidebook.